So let's go ahead and just get started. You can find a comfortable position for this evening. And if you would like to lay down for your meditation, please feel free to do so. I just always invite people to put a pillow under their legs, their knees, so that your lower back will drop and you'll be more comfortable. So go ahead and find a comfortable position. And if you like to, you can close your eyes. And if that's not comfortable for you, just look at the floor about 3 or 4 feet in front of you, just so that you have a soft gaze, not looking at anything in particular. We just don't want to get visually stimulated while we're doing our mindfulness. So you can begin by just settling in and taking a couple of breaths, just kind of letting yourself arrive. And I always like to begin by just doing a little notation of how you are in this moment. Just noticing how your body is, your heart and your mind. And whatever you find is okay. Conditions are such in this moment, but they're always temporary. Everything's always in flux. So if you have some discomfort now, there'll be a time where it's not here. And then if you have a dedicated practice, you're welcome to use that this evening. You can just let my words kind of wash over you. But if you like, you could begin by focusing on your breath, using your breath this evening. And there's 2 ways that we can use our breath, whichever way works. One way is where we allow the breath to be our focal point. So we just focus on our breathing, letting go of the mind and stories, and just letting that become our focal point. We don't have to make the breath do anything in particular. We're just watching it as it is. It works for us all day. We can trust it. But if you find that your mind is racing, too busy, you're having a hard time focusing on the breath, you can use the breath as a support to just gently breathe out the distractions and tensions that you're noticing. And so you notice some pain or tightness in the body, and you just gently breathe it out on the out-breath. Just releasing it from the body. No need to hold on to it. It's okay that it's here. We just don't want to cling to it or grab onto it. So whatever distraction or stress is here, we allow it. And then we just gently release it on the out-breath. And this can be done with everything we notice. We notice a thought, it's okay. We just gently release it. We notice a feeling, our heart hurts, or we feel some pain. And we can release that. And we can also do it with joy and excitement. It's okay that it's here, wonderful. But again, we don't have to cling to it. We just let it flow. So we notice it and just gently breathe it out on the out breath. In this way, we're just using our mindfulness to settle and empty the mind, allowing us to feel what's deeper inside. And with this emptying, we may find that we begin to relax or our body softens a little. We may notice a little more peace or quiet. Or perhaps some more ease. If we're very stressed, we may just do this for the entire sit. But if we're noticing some peace and ease, we can turn our attention and begin breathing into it. Begin breathing it. Allowing it to get as big as it wants. And settling into it, it's as if the peace and ease is breathing. we allow ourselves to become peace and ease. And I invite you to let these next words just settle in your system. Deep in my body, there is wisdom. Deep in my mind, there is wisdom. Deep in my heart, there is wisdom. And this wisdom will carry me through. I invite you to rest in this deep wisdom. Deep within you. You can rest in it. You can trust it. So wonderful to sit with you all. So last week we talked about manifesting our wisest intentions. We talked about how we might empty and in clearing ourselves have a much more clear perception of the world, and that would actually help us realize the things that we want to embody in our life. This week, what I wanted to talk about was wise action. And, it seems that in the world right now, we're starting to feel the pressures of the stress coming back in. We have the COVID spikes that are happening. People are working, tirelessly in hospitals to try to manage this all across the country. People's fear is going up about it. We also have winter coming, and so less sunlight and darkness, that brings up stuff for people. And restrictions, and also the holidays. The holidays for people feel pretty stressful right now. People are stressed about them. They're stressed about not being able to see family, all kinds of things coming up. So today I wanted to talk about wise action, because wise action helps us kind of stay buoyant in all of this. If we have wise action, we can stay buoyant. A lot of times we feel overwhelmed, we might feel stuck in our life, we might feel cornered by something. And wise action is what keeps us moving, keeps us going, and keeps us kind of like on top of the wave. Right? So I want to talk about that tonight. And the first thing I want to say about wise action is that it's an embodied practice. That's what I'm going to talk about tonight, is that it's an embodied practice. It's not something that comes from our knowledge. It's not something we think about and go, okay, A plus B equals C, and that's what I'm going to do. Instead, it comes from wisdom. So knowledge is information, data, things that we've had. Wisdom is dynamic. It's alive in us. Right? It takes in the whole picture, the big picture. It takes in the current situation. It's not based off of old information or what I learned yesterday. It's based off of what's here right now in front of me. And so it's very dynamic that way. It's very fresh. It's very real. And it often is even informed by love. So our knowledge can say, well, do this, don't do this. And love can say, that isn't making sense. I feel like I need to do something a little different here. So it's a very dynamic, flowing kind of wisdom. There's this quote from Albert Einstein, which I love. Kind of a little bit of difference here between wisdom and knowledge. He says, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is a faithful servant. But we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten our gift." And so here he is pointing to, knowledge is this, but there's this wisdom. And are we living connected to our wisdom? Yeah. So how do we have wise action happen? Well, there's a couple of things that need to be in place for wise action to happen. Otherwise, it's not wise. It can be uninformed action. It can be misinformed action. Those kinds of things. Ignorant action. So the very first thing we need for wise action is to have mindfulness. We have to be mindful. Otherwise, we miss all the cues. Right? I said this is a dynamic practice. So we want to be mindful. That means we turn our attention inward. We turn and watch what's happening. We sense what's happening. We feel our intuitive gut, right? So that's the first thing we need to do. And then where we place that attention is that we put it on our mind, our body, and our heart. And I find that often my body is the greatest communicator of what's going on in terms of whether something's wise or unwise. I can feel it right away in the gut. You may have this too. You do something and there's a contraction in your body and you're like, that was a little off. So we have to be mindful and we have to pay attention. What we're paying attention to is our mind, our body, and our heart. Yeah. And the other thing we have to do to have wise action is we have to have it in the present moment. It has to be a moment-to-moment experience, because this is how we get information about whether it's working or not. And the information is instantaneous, right? You know, like, I'll just make something up. You can be having a great talk with, let's say, your brother or sister or somebody in your family, and it's going great, it's all wonderful, and then there's that moment that you just kind of like cross a line, and you just say something that's just a little off, or a little, you took a jab, and all of a sudden your system knows instantly, both of you know instantly, right? All of a sudden they shut down, you feel yucky, you're like, ugh, you know, it's like instantaneous. So it has to be in this moment-to-moment way, which is a really good thing because it pulls us out of future thinking. You know, a lot of times when we're suffering, it's because we're in future thinking. So if we think about COVID or we think about the holidays, notice if you're getting worked up, chances are you're in the future. You're sitting there saying, oh my God, what if this happens? I can't handle 6 more months of this, right? You've gone 6 months in advance. Come back right here to the present moment. That's the other thing it needs. It needs you to be here, not there. So you need to be here. What's going on here in my environment right now? Not what might happen an hour from now, or 8 years from now, or when my child goes to college. You know, I have all these parents I've worked with, and they get so uptight sometimes, and I go, what are you so uptight about? And they're like, my child's going to end up as a wino in the back alleys of New York. And I'm like, your child is 10. Like, how did you get there, right? Could you come back to 10 years old and let's just work right here? So it's kind of that take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves kind of moment. So we need mindfulness, right? We need it in our heart, body, and mind. We need it right here in the present moment. Just come back to this moment, to here. And this, when we get this immediate feedback, is how we stay on course for wise action. Because when we get that immediate feedback, we know, oh yeah, it feels good. No, it doesn't. Unpleasant, pleasant, tight, whatever. That's what keeps us on course, you know. I remember there was this teaching that Jack Kornfield talked about years ago with his teacher, and he was arguing with his teacher one day, and he said, I watch you teach, and sometimes you tell somebody, go left, and then you tell them, go right. And he's like, which is it? Go left or go right? And he said, Jack, pay attention. When they go too much this way, you know, I'm like, come back this way. When they go too much this way, come back this way. And by doing this course correct, right, you stay on the path. You stay in a good place. You stay in the clear place where you're not falling off the edges and starting to scare yourself. So that moment-to-moment feedback is so important. The other thing it does in the moment-to-moment feedback is that it's working with the dynamics of life that are changing moment to moment to moment. You know, for any of you who love quantum mechanics or love cosmos kind of stuff, one of the things that science tells us now is that actually the world forms by relationship. So the mind you bring to something informs the very next moment. And you've seen this in your life happen, right? If you're struggling with somebody at work, or, you know, one of your siblings or a parent or somebody, if you bring in an agitated mind, chances are they're going to meet you with an agitated mind. If you bring in an open, receptive, curious mind, it's hard for them to get a footing. Even if they're in a bad mood, it's hard for them to get a footing. So the moment to moment is important because as we stay here, checked in with reality, and we stay open and curious, then we actually are setting up the best conditions for the very next moment. So this is how we stay up on the top of the wave, right? If we spin out and start worrying too much, chances are we're going to lose our footing. It's all going to kind of go to hell in a handbasket. So these are the things we need. It's this moment-to-moment flow and checking in. And by being in relationship with this, we stay in right action. We course correct if it's not right, and we go forward. That feels pleasant. Okay, I'm still doing okay here, right? So I just want to invite you to think about some places where you can practice wise action in these next numbers of weeks here. One of them is the holidays, right? So having wise action is both about how you connect with people. It's also about things like buying presents, So you can use wise action as you negotiate these holiday times. And so it might be something like, not going to somebody's house who might be at risk for COVID, even though every part of you wants to go. Wise action might be like, I feel a little off if I go, right? It might be, I can't go home for Christmas, so part of me is now wanting to spend 4 times the money on my presents because I feel so guilty about not going home for Christmas. And it's like, whoa, stop for a moment, feel into that. Is that wise action? And you might feel, there's actually some guilt here. I'm going to work with that guilt. Or I feel sad, I miss them, and I wish I could go home. So we work with this so that we don't get caught up in codependent behaviors. We don't overextend. We don't have poor boundaries around the holidays, those kinds of things. So that's an important one where we can kind of play with that. Wise action tells me to take a breath right here. So, we can also have wise action and practice around things like the planet, So looking at our resources and how we use them. Little things like my comfort versus what does my deepest self tell me, my gut tell me about my use of resources? So do I leave those lights on or the heat up or those kinds of things, or do I dial it down a little bit? Mark and I were having a conversation because many of us are home now, right? And so we used to turn our heat way down during the day, and then we come home, and now we're home, and we were having a conversation about, do we leave the heat up? The whole time we're going to have like ridiculous bills, right? Not good for the planet. And so we were having conversations like, okay, so what if we use a space heater in just the little rooms that we're in, and we don't heat the whole house? So it could be something like that. It might be something like that. Turning off lights as you leave the room, not running the hot water, So that's wise action. You're just checking in with yourself, like, well, does it feel okay to do this? And chances are if there's a no, that would be shut off the light, turn off the hot water, Don't go for the comfort, go for save the planet in that moment, something like that, if that makes sense. We can also use wise action in our day. How to manage these long winter COVID days, right? So that involves things like exercising or eating healthy, not drinking so much, I watched in my own mind. It was really funny. Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. And then I had this moment where I just spun out. And it was just like, I could feel all the pressure about the long winter coming in and everything. And I think my kids were complaining, and it was just, I got caught up. And all of a sudden I could see myself like, screw it. Let's eat a bag of cookies, It's like, I don't care anymore. And it's like, and I have friends going, I swore I wasn't going to have that martini every night at dinner, and now I'm having a martini every night at dinner. Like, what is going on with me, right? So there's these ways in which, these kinds of stressful situations can help us lose our seat, to lose our rhythm. And wise action, that moment-to-moment check-in, that allows us to check in with, does this feel okay? Is this working? If I drank too much last night, do I want to drink? If I eat, a bag of cookies, do I want to really go out and buy another bag of cookies? Those kinds of things. So wise action helps us negotiate our day. Like, okay, this much exercise, that much work, this much play, this much connection with friends. We're just kind of moving through our day like this, feeling into what feels right. If you're talking on the phone with your friend and you should get back to work, wise action is, you know what, I gotta hang up. I love talking to you, but I got this project waiting for me, And that's the beautiful thing that I love about wise action, is that it definitely gives you that feedback when you're off right away, So if you do drink too much, eat too much, stay on the phone too much, stay in bed too much, whatever that is, whatever, that unwise action is, you'll know in your body, you'll know in your heart and mind. And all you have to do in that moment is walk it back. Just walk it back right in that moment. Suzuki Roshi, this Zen teacher in San Francisco, used to just say, begin again. Got lost? Begin again. No judgment, no anger. We're all in incredible, in a pot of boiling water right now. We're all going to have moments that we have unwise action. It's going to happen. So when it happens, walk it back. Just like, okay, take a moment for some loving kindness for yourself, and then do a wise action. So close the bag of potato chips and put it away. Or if you need to, throw it out if you have no willpower, right? Call that person and apologize. As soon as you realize, oh, God, I misstepped. It's like, do some loving kindness, be brave. Okay, you can't call them, text them. Go ahead and text. Just say, so sorry for that. Was not in a good space today, right? What else? Set a boundary. If you've overextended and you said to somebody, oh yeah, I'll do that and I'll do that and I'll do that, and now all of a sudden you're feeling sick and you're feeling stressed and you have a headache, unwise action. That was codependence. Right there, do some loving kindness for yourself, find your seat, and then set a boundary. If you have to, email them if you don't have the guts to call them. It's not going to work for me to do that over the holidays, I'm so sorry. Or whatever it might be. And the beauty of that is the moment you make that turnaround, the moment you do that walking back, you have now stepped into wise action. And so you got right back up on the horse, right back up on the wave, and you're surfing again. You're going to be okay. And you might have to course correct 20 times, if you're somebody who has a hard time having your voice, or has a hard time with food, or has a hard time with alcohol. You might have to step it back multiple times. That's okay. That's wisdom. That's wisdom that you're doing that. As I said in our sit tonight, you can trust the deep wisdom that you have. Deep in your mind, your heart, and your body, you know. Wisdom knows what's right for you. Wisdom will take care of you. Wisdom will keep you healthy. Wisdom will make sure you don't overextend. Wisdom will support your dreams, even when somebody you love doesn't support your dreams. Somebody you care about is saying, don't do that. Wisdom is like, sorry, I got to. This is my truth. It helps us live in reality rather than in imagination and imaginary relationship. It helps us stay true to ourselves. Here's this quote. When you can't stand the suffering anymore, you will begin to awaken. When you can't stand the suffering anymore, you will begin to awaken. Wisdom starts speaking to you, saying, this isn't working. This isn't working. The last thing I want to say about wisdom is that wisdom, which comes from this deepest part of ourself, our essential nature, wisdom knows no fear. Wisdom has no fear. It has discernment. It knows when something's good, not good for you, healthy, unhealthy, but it doesn't have fear about it. It's like it just is. And so when we're in touch with this deep wisdom, we're able to do actions that are generous, that are loving and caring. They are the things that support community, support our community coming back together, support our community being held and healthy, as opposed to, sorry, taking care of myself, too much fear, can't help. It brings us back together, you know. I want to read this. A friend of mine put this up on Facebook this week, and I thought this was beautiful. For her, it was an expression of her Christian faith. It was so beautiful. But I thought, wow, this is wise action. This is such beautiful, wise action. So she wrote this on her page. We are now a solid 8 months into this. And if you are not working, not getting a paycheck, struggling to make ends meet, or you run out of food or necessities, please don't let yourself or your kids go to sleep hungry. Don't be afraid or embarrassed to send me a private message. I am more than happy to help. I will drop and go, or I'll order a delivery for you. No one has to know, and I will pretend it never even happened. What's understood never has to be explained. I don't have a lot, but the little I have, I am willing to share. For we are all in this together. And I sat back and went, wow, that is beautiful. That is wise action. She's letting her heart come forward. She knows people in her community are struggling. She's saying, let me make it private. We never have to talk about it. No shame. And I love that it's not codependent in any way. You know, she says, I don't have a lot. So, you know, moochers, don't be bugging me, you know. I don't have a lot, but what I do have, I'm willing to share. And that's just such beautiful, beautiful wisdom. Yeah. Someone's asking if I can send that. I will, yes, I will put that up on my fallon-cyr.com. How about that? I'll put it up on that if you want to do it. This is what happens when we're in wise action, right? There's just this wisdom of what needs to come forward. What is the next best thing to do? I'm not planning for 8 months from now. It just arises in the heart right now. Do this. Now do this. It's a moment-to-moment practice. So beautiful. So I hope that you can feel the richness of this practice of wise action, that we use our mindfulness, we touch into our body, our mind and our heart in a moment-to-moment way, checking in. How's it going? How's it going? Yep, nope, course correct, more of this, less of that, you know? And that's how we stay in this middle way. We don't get hung up on too much aversion or too much greed. We don't get hung up on spinning out of whether or not we're okay. We are okay. If we do wise action, we are okay. You don't have to worry about anybody else or the world. Just listen to your own body, heart, and mind. It will never fail you. It will never fail you. And it will hold you in the biggest of waves. You know, it can be a 30-foot wave, and you'll be sitting right on top in the flow, moment to moment, course correcting, so that you don't spin out. Yeah. So, just a couple of wise actions to just name, you know, as we're in these days. What comes to me is take care of yourself, go outdoors, make sure you have some time in your day to empty. There's so much stress out there, just empty, just empty. Come back in touch with this deep wisdom, this deep essential nature you have, and you'll be okay. No matter what happens, you'll be okay. Here's a quote from Thomas Merton that I love. May we all grow in grace and peace, and not neglect the silence that is printed in the center of our being. It will not fail us. Yeah. So let's just take a moment, mindful moment, just to share the richness of these practices. And so you can close your eyes if you like. May we come to deeply understand wise action and practice it in our own life so that it keeps us on course and healthy and well and filled with love, compassion, and joy. May it ripple out beyond our lives to those we love, those we know and don't know, to the whole world, so that all beings may awaken to their own wise action, to trust their own heart, mind, and body, to live authentically and truly to themselves what is real and true for them. And may this collective wisdom wake us up on this planet so that we are the best of friends, the best of family, the best of lovers, and the best of humans on this planet.
Maureen, that was amazing.
Oh, thank you. So thank you, everybody. Lovely to sit with you all and share. You know, again, always feel free to invite friends that you think it might help or who might be interested. And thank you, deep appreciation for your support of these practices. Yeah, it's lovely to be in this journey with you, to be sharing back and forth. It's lovely. So I wish you deep, wise action as you go forth in your work and with your family and out in the world, and particularly as we kind of slide into these holidays, that you have this deep, wise action moving your heart moment to moment. Yes, no, yes. And find your way. find the best way for you. So, thank you, everybody. Awesome to sit with you all.